Hello, my name's Holly Purchase and I'll be your webinar host today. We're expecting the presentation to last for about 45 minutes, followed by a question and answer session. Please note that we'll be muting the telephone lines during the webinar, except for the speakers. So if you have any questions, please submit them using the question toolbar on screen. We'll be collating all of the questions at the end and we'll look to answer as many as possible. We'll also be providing a written response to delegates of all the questions received during the webinar. Following the presentation, we'll be posting a copy of the recording from this session onto the Prisym ID website and we'll notify all registered attendees when it's available. In today's webinar, we'll discuss how to rapidly deploy a validated, compliant global labeling solution in 3 to 6 months, how to deliver local language labeling and country-specific requirements on a global scale, what it means to be UDI ready and why it's important to be prepared, preparing for the future by looking at the needs for capabilities such as e-labeling, how to implement on-demand printing with zero defect market, and overcoming the challenges of centrally controlling and capture all production label prints across the manufacturing lines, distribution centres and third-party manufacturers. There will then be the Q&A. Today we have two specialist speakers, Dave Taylor and Craig Jones. Dave Taylor is the VP of Global Products for Prisym ID and is responsible for leading our strategic direction for product innovation and excellence. Dave has 15 years in managed services and software for the healthcare market. His experience includes the deployment of identification and traceability solutions within multiple industries, including food, chemical, pharmaceutical, aerospace, automotive, and medical device, as well as general manufacturing and logistics. Previously, Dave worked for Star Technology, Navisite Europe, and AHH Meditel. Craig has worked in many technical areas of the business for Prisym ID since 2004, leading the support services team, where he brought a strong customer-focused approach to delivering high-quality services internationally. More recently, Craig has branched out into VP of Service Innovation, where his technical background and product knowledge complements his commercial awareness and as such is able to relate to Prisym's customers on many levels. Without further ado, let me hand you over to Dave.
Thanks, Holly. The global medical device market is highly focused around the USA. This $300 billion industry includes half of the leading global companies who produce 2/5 of the world's instruments and employ over 2 million Americans directly and indirectly. Population growth, healthcare reform, increasingly affluent middle classes in emerging markets, all contributing to an industry that has demonstrated impressive economic growth even in tough economic climates. Yet in 2013, we see medical device recalls on the rise. 400 recalls in Q2 2013, nearly a third higher than in Q1. A total of 9.2 million units declared unfit so far in 2013, leading to reputational damage across nearly 200 US-based companies. So it is not a surprise that this industry, more than others, is subject to high degree of scrutiny and legislation. And the legislation and regulations in the US are recognized as leading the way globally. The FDA has established itself as the authority across the globe when it comes to regulations for healthcare. And to illustrate this point, I'll twist some very old and often misquoted data about how regulation tends to gain in complexity over time. This slide has been used many times to illustrate how wordy the fictitious EU directive on the sale of cabbage was. This illustrates precisely how involved and complex existing legislation governing the use of computer systems when labelling medical devices has become. And indeed, the recent UDI regulation, dwarfing the 26,000 words attributed to the imaginary EU directive. This regulatory complexity means that companies looking to succeed in the largest medical device market in the world must take steps to ensure the integrity of their supply chain, from suppliers to customers and all the steps in between. The purpose of the supply chain is to generate value in the form of products that are delivered to the final customer. The supply chain is ultimately a network of interdependent companies that exist to manufacture, package and distribute the right quantity of the right product at the right time to the right customer, at all times reducing costs and maintaining or increasing quality. And at a high level, within the medical device supply chain, products flow from suppliers through manufacturing, packaging, storage and distribution before arriving with the end customer. This doesn't take into account the additional complexities associated with product relabeling, additional labeling, local language and regulatory requirements. And it's therefore easy to see how this complexity builds up downstream in the chain. But at each point in the process, there's a single element that's responsible for keeping the products flowing. The label plays a critical part in the supply chain, right from the suppliers, through production and logistics and onto the customer. And at its most basic form, the dictionary definition of the label is a piece of paper, card or other material attached to an object to identify it or give instructions concerning its ownership, use, nature or destination. However, what does this really mean when labelling something of significance, such as a medical device? Incorrect labels for most products would have little effect on our everyday lives. However, in healthcare, misleading or false information given by a manufacturer on a label could at best cause discomfort and at worst, serious harm or even death. Being in control of the final content of the label is not a nice to have, it's a must have. So how does the information needed on the label end up there? In order to ensure that the label fulfills its function, the information must be relevant to each part of the supply chain and is probably sourced from within systems that are designed to assist at that point in the process. What ends up as a small piece of paper attached to a product has a complex life cycle of its own that extends all the way back through distribution with logistics, sales order and invoicing systems being involved, into packaging where resource scheduling, translations and regulatory systems contribute to the data, back further into manufacturing where ERP, MES, regulatory and translation management systems are all involved, and even further into the organization's pre-production departments, such as product development, research and development, RA, QA, product management, marketing and document control teams, all having a stake in the content and auditability of the final production label. All of this data has to be captured, controlled, managed, integrated, versioned, rendered in an appropriate manner, and reviewed and approved before the label can be printed. And as the number of systems increases, the tendency is to rely upon manual swivel chair integration to pass the data from one system to another. Regardless of where the final label is applied to the product, a significant portion of the information shown on the label may have been copied and pasted from one system into another. These manual steps introduce significant opportunity for errors and defects to manifest themselves on the packaging. When combined with the complexity of the supply chain and the scrutiny of the regulations, it is perhaps easy to understand how labeling defects caused by misleading or false labels, alongside human error, are some of the principal reasons cited by the US Government Accountability Office in its report to Congress on medical device recalls. Over the past 20 years, Prisym ID have provided label lifecycle management solutions to the life sciences supply chain using a mixture of knowledge, understanding and experience. Due to the complexities of the supply chain and the desire for the software to support the various touch points in manufacturing, packaging, distribution and warehousing, Prisym ID have developed solutions that utilize a mixture of configurable software alongside customer-specific solutions to ensure that the right product is packaged with the right label, showing the right data in the right language at the right time. These solutions have typically leveraged our industry-leading Prisym Medica solution, which is a validatable label lifecycle management platform designed to support electronic records and electronic signatures that is augmented with customer-specific business process implementations to generate the end labels. As our product labels typically include a plethora of data from many external applications, a typical solution will also therefore include customer-specific integrations to systems such as Oracle, SAP, JD Edwards, BPIX, Windchill, Agile and Navision to access data that's already under management. And this approach has delivered millions of dollars of annual business benefit to our installed customers by increasing in efficiency in manufacturing, implementing just-in-time label production, and eliminating labeling-related errors within the manufacturing and packaging lines all over the globe. As the marketplace has matured, Prisym ID has increasingly been working with our key customers to understand the next generation of challenges that companies within the medical device and life sciences marketplace are encountering. As well as the challenge of the regulatory framework and the complexity of the supply chain, a key request has been repeated time and again by our customers. Due to the extended time to deploy and with the increased risks associated with the implementation of customized solutions, an alternative needs to be found that allows solutions to be tailored for individual customer objectives, that can be delivered rapidly while providing validation solutions that add real value and decrease complexity during the cycle. And for 80% of the life cycle of the label, this is fine. Document design, data management, version control, approvals, auditing, reporting and user controls are all areas where there is not too much deviation between one company process and another. During the data integration process and at production execution workstations, while the endpoint is the same at a high level, to produce a piece of paper with some ink on it, the devil in the detail is a saying that does not underestimate the multitude of variations that we see, even within the same organizations, using the same systems to produce labels at different parts of the process. And this is easy to understand. A company that has invested heavily in customized manufacturing, logistics and resource scheduling systems understandably expects the solution that prints out bits of paper at various points in the process to be able to follow their custom business processes and to assist them in reducing risks during operational use by tightly enforcing their specific business workflows. And this historically has led to standard configurable applications forming the core part of a solution alongside bespoke developed systems. But when a typical customized solution takes a number of months to design and to agree a specification around, when the customer-specific application may then take more months to be developed and even more months to validate and roll out, this significantly extends the payback for the solution. To address this, Prisym ID has crystallized its experience in delivering enterprise label lifecycle management solutions and has created a solution platform that meets the challenges associated with the supply chain, the regulatory structure, and the plethora of different systems with different processes. Prisym 360 allows our customers to focus on achieving business value outcomes rather than solving technical challenges by accelerating the delivery, reducing the risk, and still delivering personalized solutions to individual circumstances. During recent customer workshops, Prisym ID has identified the top labeling-related challenges our customers are attempting to overcome. As companies seek to leverage existing products in new markets or look to extend product ranges in existing geographies, the requirement to ensure that the packaging is accessible to the population in that market has become increasingly important. Sourcing, recording, controlling, designing, and using language-specific information is now critical to accessing a number of emerging markets for medical devices, regardless of whether the devices are manufactured locally or imported into the geography. Whenever companies wish to exploit the opportunities offered by expansion of product ranges and introduction to new geographies, leverage the benefits of merger and acquisition activities, increase manufacturing to 24/7, or change to meet the new raft of import restrictions, these will all have a consequential impact to packaging and labeling operations. Being able to swiftly adapt to changing business needs is a vital consideration for any label lifecycle management system. Managing the various complexities that surround country of origin statements, made in, manufactured in statements, especially in an environment where kits or packs are assembled, such as instrument manufacturing, or where complex devices are sold that include supplied components from many different territories, the ability to have confidence that the appropriate procedures that are built into the packaging process are being adhered to rather than being left to interpretation is critical. The total cost of translating, procuring, storing, transporting, and ultimately disposing unneeded paper booklets, that for the most part are not referred to when the product is used, can be a significant operational cost. By moving to a just-in-time production method of creating specific language IFUs, compelling time and cost savings may be realized. EIFU initiatives are now offering the opportunity to remove massive amounts of paper from the packaging process without increasing liabilities. The opportunity to generate content just in time for electronic distribution, as well as backup paper versions, is now becoming a reality within Europe. Controlling this process will also become increasingly important. Where an organization has organically expanded and has acquired many systems across disparate facilities that require multiple vendors with different responsibilities and service level agreements, there exists a compelling opportunity to standardize and consolidate operations in order to drive operational savings throughout the business. Choosing a platform that supports a global deployment, drives single harmonized processes, and yet retains the ability to meet local requirements is paramount if these business savings are to be realized. Managing the complex relationships between the components making up a kit, the various lot and batch histories, and most importantly the expiry dates, are critical factors when assembling kits and multi-packs of product. As the UDI mandate rolls out and manufacturers move to the GS1 barcode standards, this will impact the packaging and labeling process, especially where current processes involve a two-step packaging phase. Over the past 2 years, while waiting for the final publication regarding UDI, most companies have been diligently reviewing their packaging and labeling standards, and there has been a distinct movement to adopt GS1 standards for primary packaging within the industry. This has been driven in part by domestic customers switching switching to mandating GS1 coded products, and partly in anticipation of the UDI publication. Being able to implement packaging changes that change the presentation of the machine-readable components from one barcode symbology to another, and to potentially assist with the relabeling of inventory items, is crucial to reducing stock holdings, or even worse, disposal costs. And even where each part of the process has been subject to incessant review and approval cycles, where the production print process has been mostly automated to reduce human error, defects that originate in supplier stock, printer malfunctions, or ink irregularities may still occur. Typically, these inconsistencies are addressed by adding layers of human visual inspection against label master documents at various parts in the packaging and labeling process. While this represents a rapid method to address such defects, the typical success rates for visual inspections of labels on a fast-moving production line are low at best. Being able to leverage the intelligence in the label design and data structure enables machine-based inspection to be mounted directly onto print devices so that labels are forensically analyzed as they are produced. This critically allows operators to remove failed labels before they are applied to products and ensures that label defects become less and less likely. During recent customer communications, all of our discussions confirmed that a platform that could support their business through these issues, that could meet the complexity of the supply chain within the regulations, would be of paramount importance to their business and would lead them on the pathways to success. And I'll now pass over to Craig to explore some of these areas in a little more detail.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, firstly, language management. As previously stated, the handling of the data and metadata that revolves around written language is a challenge that most medical device manufacturers have to address in order to take advantage of a truly global marketplace. Traditionally, there are a number of approaches that have been used. Where the product packaging is large enough, a single label that includes every language that could be required is one solution. Producing an English-only label for the product and then including booklets inside, which include translations. Introducing a secondary packaging step that takes information from a language-neutral primary label and retrieves the layout and data for a subsequent label to be applied over the top or next to the primary label. Regional labeling, where distribution sites apply regional language labels to the product. Although each of these avenues of addressing the problem seems straightforward, there are complexities and costs embedded with each approach. How is the language information captured? What mechanism ensures that the translated content is appropriate to the final product? Where a product is potentially going to one of 50 countries that may require 30 or more languages, is it an unreasonable assumption that the operator will be able to identify product designation errors, let alone problems relating to technical content of the label in a language that they are not a native speaker of? Solutions to this are various. Having the language information captured as an image and embedded on a label is one approach that addresses the primary issue and also overcomes the lack of Unicode support within legacy applications, but introduces other issues around dithering of pictures by print devices, version controlling of images, and the size of database storage. Capturing the English language content and then using a data structure to control the various translations that each product requires is another method. This provides a flexible approach, but ultimately suffers when a large product catalog is required. Typically, either the base product information is duplicated many times, or the individual records contain so much information that change control of such records becomes a considerable burden at operational and management levels. How does the language information get reviewed? What processes ensure that the individual phrases are checked before they are printed on the final label? How does the label design tie up with the product's regulatory requirements to ensure that only the improved languages are printed on the label? How can the same content be leveraged against many products without having massive duplication of content and increases in translation costs and reviewer time and effort? In the most part, these challenges are addressed by building customer-specific applications that focus on managing the language components exclusively, and then either building custom integrations or relying upon copy and paste to move content from one system to another. In all cases, this indicates additional risk, increased cost of ownership, and further challenges in the future when trying to change these requirements. Ultimately, destination labeling solutions must be specific to the individual requirements and must address the reality of the model that the company is operating. However, regardless of whether the desire to implement country-specific primary packaging, build to stock, country-specific secondary, pick to order, or regional multi-language labeling, build to stock, Prisym 360 offers a toolkit of capability that will support delivering the right translation to the right product label at the right time. By elevating language to a first-level data item in its own right that behaves according to a defined set of rules, Prisym 360 allows customers to define dictionaries that contain key phrases that are controlled within translations that are language-specific and, more importantly, are version and approval controlled in the context of the written language. This allows the flexibility to define large dictionaries of mostly static content that can be reused in many areas alongside smaller dictionaries that are specific to individual situations. As Prisym 360 natively understands the importance of language to the final printed label, whenever language-specific content is designed into the data structure or into a specific label or IFU, the application will allow the user to view the content in their chosen language. This means that the data can be curated independently of the layout and then immediately applied to specific label situations to assess the suitability of the individual phrases. This key capability allows Prisym 360 users to build data structures that reflect their currently authorized distribution requirements, to create labels that understand the significance of each translation, and to be able to create labels that utilize this investment. Critically, this capability to govern the process of multiple or local language labeling is part of the Prisym 360 platform and requires no customer-specific components in order to deliver value immediately to our customers. Although, as one senior executive reported to me, if the surgeon about to perform an operation on you needs to read the instructions for use before they begin, then you will need to find an alternative surgeon. The requirement to include IFUs and other inserts with devices is not about to disappear. This exercise in liability limitation has become cumbersome, burdensome, and costly for some companies through their manufacturing and packaging processes. The process of ensuring that inserts are included with specific products has evolved to the level where the inserts are treated as products in their own right and are included on the bill of materials for many finished goods. Given that a typical business may choose to procure and hold stock 3 to 6 months of inventory for each insert, that the inserts themselves are required for each variant of each new product, that the insert information itself is subject to change control, review, approval, and version control processes, and will invariably involve many languages and the complexity of managing the translated content. It is easy to comprehend why management of inserts is generally regarded as a leading challenge. When the lead time for changes to be implemented and the actually revised IFU to be available in stock is evaluated, the cost of production, whether in-sourced or outsourced, is considered, alongside the outlay for stock holdings, logistics, additional non-value-add warehouse space for storing the printed documents, and the value of stock write-off costs. Once the information of the insert has been revised to the business justification, for seeking an alternative supply chain solution to insert management is crystal clear. Prisym ID has been innovating in this area over the last few years and working tirelessly to support alternatives to the existing paradigm. By introducing support for static content documents, such as Adobe PDFs, as labels within packaging tiers, this has enabled our customers to associate specific documents to specific products in specific languages, and to print out a pre-designed and approved insert during the primary packaging process. Where languages are known in advance in a built-to-order scenario, this solution simplifies the process, reduces stock holding requirements, cost of disposal, and lead time on changes to virtually zero, and enables a more agile packaging process to deliver additional value to the business. By implementing desktop integration between Prisym 360 and Microsoft Office, the process is further improved. This innovation allows IFU templates to be designed and created within Microsoft Word and then imported into Prisym 360. At production print time, the system will generate a document on the fly that is product and language specific that can be printed to any available and appropriate printing device, such as a laser printer. By leveraging the ability to produce the insert just in time, production-specific information may also be added to the insert. For traditional IFUs, this may not be a requirement, but for quality certifications, certificates of authenticity, and other product documentation, the ability to ensure that the packaging, labeling, and inserts all share lot-specific data is a valuable benefit. The system will also allow approved changes to be immediately available, therefore eliminating time delays while waiting for new stock of externally sourced items. This also removes any costs associated with inventory and disposal. As the Internet continues to play an important role in everyday life, regulatory bodies are increasingly comfortable with allowing end users to utilize the net. In Europe, EIFU regulations allow the dissemination of electronic IFUs within the published guidelines. Prisym 360 embraces these opportunities and can work hand in hand with your content management system to ensure that product changes that are implemented in operations are reflected on external websites immediately. This innovation will ultimately lead to the IFU as a printed cost item within the bill of materials becoming a thing of the past. While awaiting the final publication concerning device identification, many organizations have embarked on a global re-evaluation of their labels and have decided to accelerate their transition from HIBCC barcodes to GS1. This creates a number of obvious supply chain challenges alongside the internal challenge of redesign and in some cases, repurposing packaging lines to accommodate these changes. Where previously a standard product kit might include a pre-printed element on the packaging to denote the product barcode, with the implementation of UDI, the product identification and production identification must be present in both human and barcode readable form. This means that the product label will need to carry lot and expiry information alongside the primary product identifier, both as text and as barcode format. This single change means that existing tools used to create pre-printed static artwork in graphic design applications must be re-examined to ensure that the packaging can now meet the new demands of the regulations. With other domestic changes in the downstream supply chain also surfacing, medical device manufacturers are finding that their primary customers are demanding that GS1 codes are to be present on primary packaging effective early 2014. This poses two distinct challenges to manufacturers. How to ensure that existing packaging and labelling procedures are able to adapt to the new regulations and customer demands. How to, in the short term, implement processes that allow existing inventory to be relabeled with the barcode symbols, or maintaining the batch history from the original manufacturing data. Built into Prisym 360, is a perpetual print job memory. This allows any label that was printed to be regenerated at any point in the future. This capability is essential as part of the DHR for any batch. In addition to this, within any boundaries requested by the customer, Prisym 360 includes the capability to perform relabel operations that allow elements from the original label to be replaced with new data or content. In the context of GS1 relabeling, this would allow a process to be defined and approved that would generate a replacement label based entirely by scanning the current inventory label. If the original label is printed in Prisym 360, then the process would select the GS1 label as a replacement and record within the audit trail the link between the original print job and the subsequent issue of the GS1 label. If the original label was not from Prisym 360, then the existing barcode can be decoded, and as long as a matching record is retrieved, a new label with the correct barcode will be generated. Again, fundamental to our customers' desires, all of this capability is available within the standard platform, requiring only configuration to implement. This again ensures that the time to deploy is reduced, the risks are reduced, and that the business advantage is experienced as soon as possible. Prisym IE has therefore developed Prisym 360 as a platform that brings label lifecycle management solutions up to date and delivers tangible business value outcomes to all our customers. This groundbreaking product has been designed to include significant configurability in key areas to allow customers to achieve their internal demands while satisfying all external factors. By realizing data and label convergence, Prisym 360 ensures that only data intended to be used on a specific label can be used on that label. Selection of the label automatically chooses the subset of the data that can be populated onto it. And likewise, selection of the record that will restrict the choice of label to those that correspond to the correct data structure. This means that label defects are reduced considerably. When introducing a new product to market, the solution allows the users to leverage existing content that may be able to be reused. Corporate logos, regulatory symbols, label design structures, alongside existing data structures to accelerate the process of designing, packaging, and labeling components for this product. This ensures that label design, review, and approval is not responsible for delay of the product into the marketplace. If a new product variant is being introduced, this process is even simpler. The new product variant information is added to the appropriate data tables, and the appropriate labels will automatically be able to be printed once the data has been fully reviewed and approved. Deployment of Prisym 360 allows customers to centralize the management of and control exactly which users or groups of users are able to contribute to the design process for critical production artwork. Prisym 360 simultaneously supports production-ready labels being printed, new iterations being designed, and existing designs being reviewed and approved without the probability of ever mistakenly using unapproved content in a production context. This level of unprecedented control of all aspects of the label design process ensures that unauthorized changes can never be made to your product labels. Whenever data has to be manually inputted from one system to another, this introduces the opportunity for data loss or data errors. Prisym 360 features a solid integration framework that allows data to be stored and managed in an external system to be made available at print time to the label printers. This reduces the tendency for errors to be made by rekeying or transposing data from one system to another. By developing a standard platform that can be configured to reflect individual requirements, Prisym 360 can be deployed faster than traditional solutions, at a lower risk than custom-developed systems, and will deliver supplier validation documentation designed to be specific to the customer business processes. This agile approach to label lifecycle management will allow customers to leverage our experience and expertise during the rollout phase of the project. From a technology perspective, Prisym 360 has been designed to be globally scalable, to work on the platforms used by our customers, and to integrate the systems already in place. This allows clients to maximize the value of existing network assets and IT infrastructure investments. With a more agile validation solution, the common validation inertia that accompanies a validated system can be reduced. This means that the platform may be updated to adjust to technology changes, such as Windows 7 availability, without incurring massive revalidation costs. From the FDA, GMP, EU, Turkey, and China, allowing the focus to be on the business benefits and the value outcomes rather than on addressing technical challenges or regulatory compliance. What underpins this entire solution platform is the data. Data is the key to achieving broad and repeatable solutions on a global basis. Whether the data is currently under management in external systems or is received by email from external translation house, the key part of the delivery is understanding the data challenge and then implementing a data management system by using the configurable capability of the application. Once the data is understood, Prisym consultants will configure the data connectors to pull the right data in and store it in the correct formats within Prisym 360. Once the data structures are implemented, the content design phase enables designers to quickly and effectively use the data throughout the packaging process, using one common set of data on labels, IFUs, artwork, and inserts, whether created within Prisym or designed in Word. Prisym 360 desktop integration extends the reach of the data structures into the design package to make the artwork creation as simple and as straightforward as possible. With built-in change control and approval management capabilities, Prisym 360 can then ensure that the design content is appropriately routed for review and approved by the right people within and without your organization. At a glance, progress reports allow stalled review processes to be kick-started without having to resort to long, drawn-out investigations by frustrated operators, product or labeling staff. This leads to the configurable production output capability. The solution supports personalization of the business process within the context of the data to accommodate any production requirements. These process flows are underpinned with a solid management foundation that covers security, search, version control, and audit control continuously and invisibly, meaning that more time can be devoted to resolving the business challenges and less time wasted on the non-value-add activities. This results in a product that is produced and distributed in the right numbers, to the right places, with the right label and content, and at the right time. I'll now pass you back over to Dave.
Thanks, Craig. So, finally, to bring all of this into perspective and to illustrate the impact and power that implementation of a Prisym label lifecycle management solution brings, one of our customers that have recently implemented a solution to remove IFUs from a small percentage of their product catalog recently shared with us their analysis of the business value that implementing a print-on-demand solution for IFU generation had delivered. The solution was targeted to introduce a second packaging step in Europe for the products that had been targeted. This secondary step identified the destination country for the product and allowed the user to print a language-specific IFU for the product at the same time as printing the shipping labels. This process had two major impacts. Firstly, the elimination of 175 tons of paper from the supply chain per year, alongside an $8 million annual cost saving to their business. And I think this demonstrates the value of a properly considered and delivered label lifecycle management solution from Prisym ID.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Craig. Please bear with us while we collate some of the questions that have come in during the presentation. If you have any additional questions that you would like to submit, please do so now using the question toolbar on screen. We'll try to answer as many as possible, but we'll also be providing a written response to all the questions asked during the webinar afterwards too. Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll now be answering some of your questions. First one that has come in is, how do you handle Unicode?
So Prisym 360 has been designed to be fully Unicode compliant. This includes Unicode compliance within the data structures, the translations and dictionaries, so support for all languages, including East Asian languages, Arabic, and that data can be used anywhere within the system, from the label content, insert content, any packaging asset.
And obviously this removes the requirement to embed Unicode language content in unwieldy pictures and makes the review and approval cycle significantly easier.
Okay. Next question is, do you work with any translation companies?
What we've done within Prisym 360 is try and implement a solution that allows us to import data using common data structures that are used. So we have an ability to import and export language and translation information through Excel, and we're finding significant traction with some of the translation companies that we have approached, saying that that's an acceptable way of transmitting the data.
Okay. The third question coming in, do you believe e-labelling will take over from actual fixed labels?
I don't believe that fixed labelling will replace, e-labelling will replace the requirement to put printed material in with the packages. I think that ultimately the amount of information packaged will be reduced as the liabilities can show to be covered by using e-labelling technologies to augment what's already going on. And I think ultimately, as our case study showed, that can drive significant amounts of ecological benefit as well as significant financial benefit.
Okay. Can you support internal approval processes?
Yes, so Prisym 360 has configurable workflows. Those workflows can be edited and created to suit any workflow internally or approval process within your organization. And those workflow packages are, as I said, entirely configurable within the business and available out of the box with the solution.
Okay, and there's another question that's come in about the level of training and support provided as a company transitions from old systems to Prisym 360.